How 10,000 samurai were crushed by peasants at Nagashino, June 28, 1575. The smell of blood and gunpowder hangs over the Nagashino Valley in Japan. It's been a long day. Hours of screaming, hours of dying. Hours of everything that Japanese samurai have been taught to avoid. Shame, defeat, cowardice. But today, all of that dies with them. By sunset, 10,000 samurai will be dead or dying in the mud of this valley. Elite warriors, the finest swordsmen in Japan. Men who've trained their entire lives for combat, who believe in honor and duty and the code of Bushido. And they'll be slaughtered, not by other samurai, not by rival clans in glorious one-on-one combat. They'll be murdered by 3,000 peasants with rifles. Peasants, farmers, men with no training, no honor, no history of warfare. The lowest caste in Japanese society. The people samurai wouldn't even spit on. And when it's over, when the smoke clears and the screaming stops, the samurai will understand something terrifying. Their world is ending. The age of the sword is dead. The era of the samurai is over. And it all comes down to one afternoon, one valley, and a military tactic so simple, so devastating, that it will change warfare forever. This is the story of the Battle of Nagashino, the day that muskets killed the samurai, and peasants became more valuable than warriors. The day that changed Japan forever. To understand why this battle matters, you have to understand what a samurai is. In 1575, Japan is a land of constant warfare. For centuries, powerful clans, the daimyo, have fought each other for control of territory and resources. There's no central government, no unifying force, just hundreds of semi-independent warlords, each commanding their own armies, fighting endless, brutal wars. This is the Sengoku period, the age of warring states. And it's hell. And at the center of this hell are the samurai. Samurai are not just soldiers. They're a warrior class, trained from birth in the art of combat. They follow a strict code of honor called Bushido, loyalty, discipline, honor, and the willingness to die rather than surrender. A samurai's blade, his katana, is not just a weapon, it's his soul. It defines who he is. A samurai without his sword is not a soldier. He's nothing. And samurai warfare is designed around personal combat. Two warriors face each other. They draw their blades. They fight until one is dead or acknowledges defeat. It's a system that rewards strength, skill, and courage. For over 1,000 years, this has been the way of Japanese warfare. But in 1543, something arrives in Japan that will change everything. Portuguese traders land on the island of Tanegashima, and with them, they bring a weapon that Japan has never seen before: the musket, the gun. At first, the Japanese are skeptical. Guns are loud, clumsy, unreliable. A skilled archer can fire arrows faster than a musketeer can reload. A samurai with a blade is far more effective than a peasant with a gun. But some of Japan's smartest warlords see the potential. Oda Nobunaga, one of the most powerful daimyo, begins experimenting with firearms. He purchases guns from Portuguese traders. He learns their tactics. He realizes something that most samurai refuse to accept. Guns are the future. The problem is, most samurai see guns as dishonorable. Using firearms is for cowards and peasants. A real warrior fights with a blade. Guns are an insult to the warrior code. Oda Nobunaga doesn't care. He's ruthless, ambitious, and willing to do whatever it takes to win. He begins recruiting peasants, not to be samurai, but to be musketeers. Common men with no training, just basic strength and the ability to follow orders. He arms them with guns and teaches them to fire in volleys. It's revolutionary. It's against everything Japanese culture stands for. But it works. By the 1570s, Oda Nobunaga has used gun-armed peasants to conquer much of central Japan. He's become the most powerful warlord in the nation, and he's made enemies everywhere. The greatest enemy is Takeda Katsuyori, the young daimyo of the Takeda clan. The Takeda are one of the oldest and most prestigious samurai clans in Japan. They pride themselves on their cavalry. Takeda horsemen are legendary. Their samurai are among the finest warriors in the nation. They believe that Takeda cavalry can break any formation, that samurai discipline can overcome any obstacle. For years, Takeda and Oda have competed for dominance. And for years, Takeda has won most of the battles. But Takeda Katsuyori is arrogant. He's won so many battles that he believes he's invincible. He's won so many victories using traditional samurai tactics, cavalry charges, individual combat, honor, and discipline, that he refuses to believe any other method could work. In 1575, a perfect storm converges. Oda Nobunaga has allied with Tokugawa Ieyasu, another powerful warlord. Together, they have roughly 30,000 men and advanced tactics. Takeda Katsuyori hears that a small fortress called Nagashino is under siege by Oda's forces. Nagashino is a strategic location, and losing it would be humiliating for Takeda. So Katsuyori makes a decision. He'll march north with his best army, 15,000 strong, and he'll crush Oda's forces. He's confident. His army is the finest in Japan. His samurai are legends. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. As Takeda's army marches north toward Nagashino, spies bring word to Oda Nobunaga. Oda receives the news and smiles. Takeda is coming, he says to his generals, and he's going to do exactly what we want him to do. Oda has a plan. It's simple, but devastatingly effective. First, he positions 3,000 musketeers, peasant soldiers armed with guns, on the defensive line outside Nagashino. These aren't elite troops, they're farmers and commoners, but they have guns, and they know how to use them. Second, he builds a wooden palisade, a fence made of sharpened stakes, in front of the musketeers. This barrier is designed to slow down cavalry charges and give the musketeers time to reload and fire. Third, he positions additional cavalry units on the flanks to counter any Takeda encirclement. Finally, and this is the crucial part, he sends a message to Takeda Katsuyori. The message essentially says, "Come and fight us. Your samurai are brave, your cavalry is strong. Come and prove it." It's an insult, a challenge. Exactly what a proud daimyo can't ignore. Takeda Katsuyori reads the message, and his pride ignites. His generals urge caution. "Lord, we don't know what Oda has planned. We should scout carefully, gather intelligence." But Katsuyori refuses to listen. "Oda is trying to frighten us with psychology," he tells his generals. "But we are Takeda. We don't fear peasants with guns. We are samurai. We were born to fight. We were born to die honorably." He gives the order to march directly at Oda's position. No feints, no clever tactics, no patience. Just a straight, devastating cavalry charge, the way samurai have always fought. Oda Nobunaga watches Takeda's army approach and says nothing. He just waits. June 28th, 1575. The battle begins. Takeda's cavalry, thousands of mounted samurai on armored horses, charge toward Oda's position. The sight is incredible. Wave after wave of warriors, swords drawn, screaming their clan name, charging forward in what they believe is an unstoppable assault. The Takeda cavalry has never met an enemy they couldn't break through. They've shattered every formation they've faced. One charge from Takeda horsemen and armies crumble. But they've never faced musketeers before. Not like this. Not in organized, disciplined volleys. The cavalry charges forward. They're maybe 300 yards away from Oda's line when the first volley fires. 3,000 guns, all firing at once. The sound is like thunder. The smell of gunpowder fills the air. And the effect is catastrophic. Samurai fall by the hundreds. Horses scream and collapse, throwing riders. The charge slows but doesn't break. Takeda has too many men. Even with devastating losses, they push forward. They're 200 yards away when the second volley fires. More samurai fall. More horses go down. But the charge continues. The survivors, determined to break through, surge forward. 150 yards. The musketeers are reloading frantically, their hands shaking. The cavalry is so close now, they can see the fear in the soldiers' eyes. 100 yards. Some of the cavalry reaches the palisade. They're using their swords to hack at the wooden stakes, trying to break through. Takeda samurai are falling from horse wounds, but they keep coming. 75 yards. The third volley fires. This is where traditional Japanese tactics meet modern warfare. And traditional tactics lose. Because guns don't care about honor. They don't care about Bushido. They don't care about the warrior's code or the spiritual bond between a samurai and his sword. Guns are simple. Point, shoot, kill. And when you have 3,000 of them, and you're disciplined enough to fire in organized volleys, they create a storm of death that no cavalry charge can survive. The third volley tears through Takeda's cavalry formation. Hundreds more fall. The horses are terrified, rearing up, throwing riders. Samurai are crushed when their horses collapse, pinned under the weight of dead animals and desperate warriors. Takeda Katsuyori watches from the rear of his army in horror. His cavalry, the finest warriors in Japan, are being slaughtered like animals. They're not even getting close to breaking the line. But he orders another charge. Send in the reserve cavalry, he commands. Break through them. Another 5,000 samurai cavalry charge forward, climbing over the bodies of the dead, trying to reach Oda's line. And Oda's musketeers fire again, and again, and again, volley after volley. The sky literally rains bullets. The field becomes a charnel house of dead horses, dying samurai, and broken dreams. At one point, there are so many bodies piled up against Oda's palisade that Takeda's cavalry can't actually reach the line. They're climbing over corpses. They're fighting on a mountain of their own dead. Still, Oda's musketeers keep firing, point blank, into the faces of charging samurai, each volley bringing down hundreds. This isn't warfare. This is execution. And it's devastating. The Takeda cavalry, decimated and broken, finally begins to retreat. The survivors, maybe half of the original cavalry force, pull back, reorganizing for another charge. But something has broken in them. They've realized for the first time that their legendary cavalry is not invincible, that guns are more powerful than swords, that peasants with rifles can kill the finest warriors in Japan. Takeda Katsuyori refuses to accept this. He's embarrassed. His reputation is being destroyed. So he orders the infantry to charge. Thousands of samurai swordsmen, armed with swords and spears, charge toward Oda's position. These are elite warriors, not cavalry, but disciplined foot soldiers who've trained their entire lives for combat. They charge across the field, screaming their battle cries, running toward Oda's line. The musketeers fire. The samurai infantry falls by the thousands. But they keep coming. They believe that if they can just reach Oda's lines, if they can engage in close combat where their skill with a blade matters, they can win. They never make it. Before they can reach the palisade, before they can even come into range to throw spears or use their bows effectively, they're torn apart by musket fire. Oda's troops, soldiers with no honor code, No belief that this is dishonest, just farmers doing a job. Fire volley after volley into the charging samurai. The slaughter continues for hours. At one point, the field in front of Oda's position is so choked with dead and dying that it literally looks like a mountain of corpses. The survivors have to climb over their own dead to advance, and when they reach the palisade, they're so exhausted, so broken, that they can barely lift their swords. And still Oda's musketeers fire. By mid-afternoon, Takeda Katsuyori realizes the truth. He's losing. Badly, catastrophically. He's lost thousands of men. Conservative estimates suggest at least 8,000 to 10,000 dead, probably more. His cavalry, his pride and joy, is shattered. His infantry is being slaughtered like sheep. And Oda hasn't broken a sweat. Katsuyori makes a decision. He orders a general retreat. The surviving Takeda samurai pull back from the field, regrouping and heading back south. It's not a fighting withdrawal. It's not a tactical retreat. It's a rout. The legendary Takeda army, the finest samurai warriors in Japan, are fleeing from peasants with guns. By sunset, the battle is over. The field of Nagashino is one of the most horrifying sights in Japanese military history. Bodies everywhere. Thousands and thousands of dead samurai. Horses with their guts spilled on the ground. The river running red with blood. Oda's musketeers stand in their lines, smoking guns in their hands, staring at the carnage they've created. Many of them are in shock. These are peasants, common men. They never expected to defeat an army of legendary samurai. But they did. And Japan is forever changed. The casualties are staggering. Takeda loses at least 8,000 men killed, with perhaps another 2,000 wounded. Some estimates suggest the losses were even higher, as many as 10,000 dead. Oda loses roughly 6,000 men, but most of those are from his supporting cavalry and infantry. His core force of 3,000 musketeers suffers perhaps 1,000 casualties. The guns did most of the work. Takeda Katsuyori survives the battle, but his reputation is destroyed. His army is shattered. The Takeda clan never fully recovers. Within a few years, the clan will be conquered by Oda, and Katsuyori will be forced to commit suicide. But the most important consequence of Nagashino is not the political aftermath. It's the message it sends to every samurai, every daimyo, every warrior in Japan. The age of the samurai is over. From this moment on, every major warlord in Japan realizes that guns are more effective than swords. Peasants with muskets can kill trained samurai. Honor means nothing on a battlefield when you're facing disciplined musket fire. Within a decade, every major daimyo in Japan has reorganized their armies. Traditional samurai units are supplemented with, and then gradually replaced by, musket-armed commoners. The samurai are pushed to the sidelines. By the end of the 16th century, the samurai are no longer the primary military force in Japan. They're becoming obsolete. Over the next few centuries, as firearms improve and armies become more modern, samurai become less relevant until they're eventually phased out entirely. The sword doesn't die overnight, but Nagashino is the beginning of the end. For samurai who witnessed the battle, the psychological impact is devastating. These men had been told their entire lives that they were superior warriors, that their training, their honor, their connection to their blade made them invincible. One afternoon of musket fire shattered that belief. Some samurai tried to deny it. They claimed the Takeda strategy was faulty, that they just needed better cavalry tactics, that guns were temporary and swords would return. But they were whistling in the dark. Deep down, they knew the truth. The warrior code had been broken by the peasant's gun, and you can't unbreak that. Oda Nobunaga, watching the slaughter from his command post, realizes he's just witnessed the future of warfare. Not just in Japan, but everywhere in the world. "Do you see?" he tells his generals. "This is how wars will be fought from now on. Not by heroes and samurai, but by disciplined soldiers with guns. Numbers matter. Tactics matter. Honor means nothing." It's a shocking realization in a culture where honor is everything. But Nobunaga is pragmatic. He doesn't care about honor. He cares about winning. And he just proved that a disciplined force of 3,000 peasants can defeat 10,000 of the world's finest warriors. The aftermath of Nagashino ripples across Japan, and eventually across the entire world. Historians studying warfare would later recognize Nagashino as one of the most consequential battles in human history. Not because it was the largest or deadliest battle, but because it was a pivot point. Before Nagashino, armies were built around elite warriors, samurai, knights, professional soldiers trained in individual combat. After Nagashino, armies were built around firepower, numbers, discipline, common soldiers armed with guns. The transition didn't happen overnight, but Nagashino was the moment when everyone realized the old way was dead. European armies were going through a similar transformation around the same time. Professional pikemen and musketeers were replacing medieval knights and cavalry. The same lesson was being learned on two sides of the world. Guns beat swords. But Japan's transformation was quicker and more complete. Within 50 years of Nagashino, the samurai class was fundamentally transformed. By 200 years, they were nearly obsolete. The noble warrior, fighting with honor and skill, was replaced by the common soldier, following orders and firing in volleys. It's a moment of profound cultural change. And it happened because one general, Oda Nobunaga, was willing to break tradition and use a dishonorable weapon. Oda Nobunaga would go on to conquer most of Japan, uniting the country for the first time in centuries. He never lost another major battle. And it was because he understood what Nagashino proved. Innovation beats tradition. Takeda Katsuyori, for his part, spent the rest of his life in declining circumstances. He lost battle after battle. His lands were taken. Eventually, in 1582, facing certain defeat, he chose to end his life on his own terms. Suicide by seppuku, the samurai way to die with honor. But there was no honor to be found. He died a broken man, his clan destroyed, his way of life rendered obsolete by a peasant with a gun. It's a tragic end to a legacy. The Takeda had been one of Japan's greatest clans for centuries, and they were destroyed not by superior samurai, but by an innovation they refused to accept. What makes Nagashino so remarkable is what it reveals about human nature and warfare. For over 1,000 years, Japanese warriors believed that the samurai way was the right way. That skill with a blade was the ultimate measure of a warrior. That courage and honor were more important than tactics and numbers. Nagashino shattered all of that in an afternoon. And yet, even after Nagashino, even after the evidence was undeniable, many samurai clung to their old beliefs. Some refused to use guns throughout their lives, insisting on dying with a sword in their hand, the honorable way. That's the power of tradition. It's so strong that even when proven wrong, even when demonstrably defeated, people cling to it. But history doesn't care about honor. History belongs to those who adapt. Oda Nobunaga understood this. He was willing to use peasants, willing to use guns, willing to break with tradition if it meant victory. And that flexibility, that willingness to adapt, is what made him Japan's most successful warlord. There's a lesson in Nagashino that applies far beyond Japan or feudal warfare. Innovation beats tradition. Numbers beat honor. Discipline beats courage. The future always defeats the past. At the Battle of Nagashino on June 28, 1575, 10,000 samurai discovered this lesson. And it cost them everything. 3,000 peasants with guns didn't just win a battle, they ended an era. The age of the samurai was over. The age of the gun had begun. And in the smoke of 3,000 muskets firing in volley, 1,500 years of samurai tradition died. June 28, 1575. The day that peasants crushed samurai. The day that guns defeated swords. The day that honor lost to innovation. Nagashino wasn't just a battle. It was the death of an age. And the birth of the modern world.